course, it's important to have good, interesting content in your presentation and clear organization, but that's not all you need. You also need good presentation skills. When you're thinking about presenting a speech, be aware that audiences tend to judge the book by its cover. We try not to, but it seems to be kind of a natural human instinct. So grooming does matter. Dress nicely for a speech. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to wear a ball gown or a tuxedo. In fact, that could create a gulf between you and the audience. But you do want to dress basically one notch nicer than the audience would normally be dressed. So if you're in a business setting and people are normally business casual, like khakis and a nice shirt, you might put on a blazer in addition to your regular khakis and shirt. Just make sure that the audience knows that you're honoring the occasion because they know you're giving a presentation and they expect you to dress up a little bit for that. Eye contact 90-10 means look at the audience 90% of the time. Notice it doesn't say 100-0. You don't have to stare at the audience 100% of the time. That would actually look awkward. You do need to check your notes every now and then. If you have PowerPoint, you'll want to look at the screen and make sure that what's up there is what's supposed to be up there. But you do need to be looking at the audience 90% of the time. Be aware of your gesture and movement. Don't keep your hands behind your back. Don't put your hands in your pockets. Just gesture naturally. Try not to pace back and forth or have nervous dancing feet. Try to avoid swaying. I always recommend videoing your speech ahead of time so that you can watch it and see if you have any distracting movement so that you can tone that down a little bit. And also if you need to build some more movement into your speech, it's a good idea to take a couple of steps at transitions because that gives the audience a visual clue that you're moving from one point to the next. So you can build some movement into your speech to add interest and to enhance the speech, but you don't want to overdo it. Basically, with every item in presentation, it'll be a situation where you want to find the happy medium. Enough, but not too much. Don't be afraid to use your voice. If you've ever listened to a presentation where the person sounded bored, they talked in a monotone, it was very quiet, it was hard to hear, that's actually frustrating for the audience. The audience, first of all, needs to be able to hear you, and secondly, the audience needs to know that you're interested in what you're saying. Even though you're probably not going to actually be on a stage when you do a presentation, the audience thinks of you in a way as being on stage because you're giving a presentation. So they expect you to be just a teeny bit larger than life. They expect slightly stronger gestures. They expect a little punch in your voice, so more vocal variation, sound extra interested in what you're saying. The next item that flows along from that is dynamism and energy. Dynamism comes from the same root word as dynamite. Make your speech dynamite. Punch it up a little bit. Make sure that you have a little more energy than you would in just a face-to-face conversation because you are giving a presentation and the audience expects it to be a little bit more energetic than you would normally be. Avoid verbal fillers. Of course, fillers are things like I once heard a public figure say the word 11 times in a row. And I won't do them all, but you get the idea. If that ever happens to you, just stop. Just close your mouth for a second, take a breath, and then continue. The best way I have found to avoid fillers is to give your speech to a buddy and have them say your fillers back to you in the most annoying way possible. So every time you say they go every time you say they go every time you say they go and I guarantee you very quickly you will become aware of your fillers and you will stop saying them because you don't want to hear them thrown back at you that way. It's a really good way to start avoiding those verbal fillers. The last item on the list here is charisma and connection to the audience. Some speakers are naturally charismatic. The audience just wants to listen to them. Now, for those of us who are not naturally charismatic, there are some technical things you can learn that will make you more charismatic. The first one is eye contact. You will want to look at the audience 90% of the time, but this takes it a little beyond that. You want to look at the audience in a personal way. So you would make eye contact just very briefly for a microsecond, with each individual person in the audience. And that way they know that you see them as people, as individuals, and not just block O audience. There's actually a term for this. It's called recognition. So you're recognizing the individuals in the audience as people, and they appreciate that. The second thing is energy. If you think about the genuinely charismatic speakers you have seen, they have energy. They come out from behind the lectern, they gesture, they have vocal variation, they are energized. That will also contribute to your charisma. And finally, competence. You need competence in two areas. You need competence as a speaker. So your speech is smooth and polished, you have good eye contact, it sounds natural, all that good stuff. And also you need competence in your area of expertise. So the audience can tell you know what you're talking about. You have thoroughly researched it. You are the go-to person. You are an expert on what you are saying. You have to have both. The audience will catch on. If you are a very smooth, polished speaker but don't know what you're talking about, they will figure it out and your credibility will drop. Also, you could be a fabulous expert in your field and really know your stuff, but if your delivery is terrible, the audience will start to tune you out and they will miss out on the really interesting content that you had to share with them. So you have to have both competence as a speaker and competence in your area of expertise.